The inspection report sat untouched on Renville's desk for 3 days. Something about the numbers bothered him, but he could not explain what. Energy consumption at Research Facility 7 had jumped by 40% in 6 months. The official explanation mentioned expanded medical trials, but the math did not add up. Life support systems were running at full capacity for a station that supposedly housed only 60 researchers. Renville belonged to the K-Theran species, known throughout the galaxy for their analytical minds and calm demeanor. His people rarely acted on hunches or gut feelings. They preferred evidence and logic. But 20 years as a Federation diplomatic officer had taught him that sometimes the numbers told stories that reports tried to hide. His assistant Dira entered the office carrying 2 travel cases. The young Ovorian had joined his team only 8 months ago, fresh from the academy and eager to prove herself. Her species valued compassion above all else, which made her an odd choice for inspection work. Most Ovorians became doctors or teachers, not bureaucrats. "The transport leaves in an hour," Dira said. "Are you sure about this? The Merchant Guild has already complained about our visit." Renville stood and grabbed his case. "Which is exactly why we need to go. Organizations that welcome oversight rarely have anything to hide." The journey to Research Facility 7 took 4 hours through slip space. The station orbited a dead moon in the outer reaches of Coalition space, far from major trade routes or populated systems. It was the kind of location chosen for privacy, not convenience. Station Director Felmer met them at the docking port with a smile that did not reach his eyes. The Heptari administrator wore expensive robes and kept checking his communication device every few minutes. "Welcome, welcome," Felmer said, his 3 arms gesturing broadly. "I must apologize for the short notice. We are in the middle of several critical research phases. Perhaps we could reschedule for next quarter." "That will not be necessary," Renville replied. "We will not take much of your time." The tour began in the main research wing, where scientists worked at terminals and examined samples under scanning equipment. Everything looked legitimate and well-organized. The staff answered questions politely and showed proper documentation for their work. But Renville noticed that Felmer kept steering them away from certain corridors, always with reasonable explanations about contamination protocols or scheduled maintenance. Dira pretended to trip near one of the restricted access points. Her species had excellent balance, so the stumble looked clumsy and accidental. As she caught herself against the wall, her hand brushed the door panel. It opened briefly before security systems kicked in, revealing a long corridor lined with more doors. "That area is off-limits," Felmer said quickly. His pleasant tone had vanished. "Sensitive experiments require strict environmental controls." "Your facility layout shows this wing as storage," Renville said. He pulled up the architectural plans on his tablet. "These controls seem excessive for storage." "The plans are outdated. We converted the space last year." "Then you will not mind if we inspect it. Standard protocol requires verification of all occupied areas." Felmer's skin changed color slightly, a sign of stress in Heptari physiology. "I need to contact my superiors first. The Merchant Guild has strict policies about intellectual property." Renville activated his Federation Authority badge. The holographic symbol appeared above his palm, pulsing with official clearance codes. "As a Federation diplomatic officer conducting a scheduled inspection, I have the right to access all areas of this station. You can call your superiors after you open that door." The director's 3 arms trembled. He looked at his guards, but they would not meet his gaze. Federation authority outranked corporate policy, and everyone in the room knew it. The door opened with a hiss of equalizing pressure. The corridor beyond was dimmer than the rest of the station, lit by emergency lighting instead of standard illumination. Renville walked forward, Dira close behind him. Their footsteps echoed off metal walls. The first cell they passed had a window. Renville looked inside and his analytical mind went blank. A small human child sat on a metal bench, maybe 7 or 8 years old. The boy's arms showed bruises and injection marks. His clothes were thin and dirty. When he saw Renville, he did not call out or ask for help. He just stared with empty eyes as if he had given up hope long ago. "What is this?" Dira's voice came out as a whisper. They moved faster now, looking into each cell. More children. Different ages, different conditions, but all human. Some slept on bare floors. Others rocked back and forth, making no sound. One girl pressed her face against the window, tears running down her cheeks. Renville counted 23 cells in this corridor alone. His scanner detected more corridors beyond, all reading similar life signs. "These are research subjects," Felmer said from behind them. His voice had gone flat and defensive. "Their parents signed consent forms. Everything is legal." Renville turned slowly. His species rarely showed emotion, but rage burned in his chest like a star going nova. "Legal. These are children. They are from a durable species. The research is valuable. Medical advances that will save millions of lives across the galaxy." Dira had opened one of the cells. She knelt beside a small girl who could not stop shaking. The child looked at her with fear and confusion, as if kindness was something she no longer understood. "Send an emergency signal to Federation Command," Renville told Dira. "Full priority. Medical ships, security forces, everything." "You cannot do this," Felmer protested. "The Merchant Guild has contracts. We have legal protection." "Your contracts are void." Renville activated his communicator. "This facility is now under Federation quarantine. Station security, you will stand down immediately or face charges of conspiracy." The guards looked at each other. After a long moment, they lowered their weapons. Renville walked back to the cell with the small girl. She still shook, her thin arms wrapped around herself. He opened the door and knelt down slowly, keeping his movements calm and unthreatening. "My name is Renville," he said quietly. "I am with the Federation. You are safe now. No one will hurt you again." The girl stared at him with huge eyes. "Promise." "I promise." His communicator came alive with incoming messages. The Merchant Guild was already contacting their lawyers, spinning their version of events. Felmer stood in the corridor, speaking rapidly into his own device. But none of that mattered right now. Renville stayed with the shaking girl until medical ships arrived. Dr. Yenna had treated injuries from industrial accidents, ship crashes, and even combat wounds during her 15 years as a physician. Nothing prepared her for what she found in the cells of Research Facility 7. The Ovorian doctor moved from child to child, her scanner recording data that made her want to scream. Systematic testing of pain responses. Repeated tissue sampling without proper healing time. Psychological stress experiments documented in clinical language that stripped away the horror of what had been done. A 10-year-old boy named Danny had undergone 43 separate invasive procedures in 18 months. His medical file read like a research paper, not a patient history. Terms like subject response and acceptable tissue damage appeared throughout. Whoever wrote these reports had stopped seeing a child and started seeing a data source. "Will they be okay?" Dira asked. The young Ovorian assistant had refused to leave the station, insisting on helping with the evacuation. "Physically, most will recover," Yenna said. "The psychological damage will take much longer, maybe years, maybe forever for some of them." The first news broadcasts hit the Galactic Network 6 hours after Renville's emergency signal. Someone had leaked footage from inside the facility. Images of scared children in bare cells spread across 1,000 worlds in minutes. Public reaction split immediately. The Ovorians expressed universal outrage. Several other species joined them, calling for immediate investigation and punishment. But voices from powerful civilizations defended the research. One Heptari council member appeared on a major news network claiming the experiments were regrettable but necessary for medical advancement. The Merchant Guild released a statement saying the children's parents had signed voluntary research agreements. They provided legal documents with signatures and dates. Everything appeared legitimate on the surface. The fact that the parents had been desperate colonists, offered no other choice for medical care for their families, got buried in legal language. On the Federation Council floor, Ambassador Patricia Nolan sat alone at the human delegation desk. Earth had joined the galactic community only 5 years ago. They held little political power and commanded even less respect from established civilizations. Most council members saw humanity as primitive newcomers who needed to learn their place. Patricia watched the proceedings with absolute stillness. Other ambassadors debated procedures and jurisdiction. The Heptari delegation argued about contract law. A Vexian representative suggested forming a committee to study the issue over the next year. No one mentioned the children suffering while they talked. A message arrived on Patricia's personal communicator. Medical reports from Dr. Yenna, including images and data. She read through everything, her expression never changing. When the council speaker finally called on the human delegation, Patricia stood. "We have reviewed the evidence," she said. Her voice came out calm and professional. "We have seen the medical reports. We have heard your legal arguments about contracts and research protocols." She paused and looked around the chamber. "You have 3 days to turn over everyone involved in this operation. Every researcher, administrator, investor, and politician who knew about or profited from this facility. 3 days." The Heptari ambassador laughed. "And if we do not comply, Earth has 50 military vessels. The Merchant Guild alone controls 300 systems. Your threats are meaningless." Patricia smiled, but there was nothing warm in it. "After 3 days, we stop asking. We come get them ourselves. And anyone who stands in our way learns exactly what a Deathworlder species can do when you hurt our children." She sat down. The chamber buzzed with confusion and dismissive comments. Several ambassadors made jokes about human arrogance. Earth was a newcomer with limited resources. Their military was small and untested in galactic warfare. The threat seemed empty. But Renville, watching from the observation gallery, saw something others missed. Patricia's hands had not shaken. Her voice had not wavered. She spoke with the certainty of someone who knew exactly what was coming next. Back at the research station, Renville continued investigating. The children had come from somewhere, and he needed to know where. Dira helped him sort through facility records, looking for shipping manifests and transport logs. They found it buried in archived files marked as equipment transfers. 2 years ago, a human colony ship called the Bright Hope had disappeared during a routine journey. 300 colonists lost, including 80 children. The official investigation concluded drive malfunction caused the ship to drop out of slip space and drift into uncharted space. But Renville found purchase orders dated 1 week before the disappearance. Research Facility 7 had ordered biological samples from durable species subjects, juvenile specimens preferred. The payment had come from a Merchant Guild account. "They hunted that ship deliberately," Dira said. Her voice shook with rage unusual for her gentle species. "They killed the adults and took the children." "Not all the adults," Renville corrected. He pointed to another document. Life support consumption records show this facility had over 200 humanoid occupants at one point. "We only found 47 children here. Where are the others?" His communicator beeped with priority messages. Multiple sources reporting the same thing. Human ships were appearing at the edges of Federation space. Not military vessels, but civilian craft. Cargo haulers, colony transports, mining ships, anything that could mount weapons or carry people. Hundreds of them, all moving in the same direction. Toward the research station. The lead ship broadcast on all frequencies. "This is Captain Bradley of the civilian fleet reckoning. We know you have our children. We know you have our people. Return them now." Federation border stations scrambled to respond. They sent warnings about restricted space and proper protocols. The human ships ignored every message except to repeat their demand. "Return our children." Renville looked at the young girl he had found shaking in her cell. Medical staff had cleaned her up and given her warm clothes, but she still flinched at sudden movements. She still woke up screaming from nightmares. She still asked every hour if this was real or another trick. Outside the station, 300 human ships dropped out of slip space in perfect formation. They held position just beyond weapons range, waiting, not attacking, not threatening, just waiting with the patience of parents who had spent 2 years searching and would wait forever if necessary. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when humanity stopped being patient. Captain Bradley had not slept properly in 2 years. Every night he dreamed of his daughter's face the morning the Bright Hope left port. She had been excited about the new colony world, talking non-stop about the beaches and mountains they would see. He had promised her adventures and a better life. Now he stood on the bridge of a converted cargo hauler named the Remembrance, looking at the research station where his daughter might be held. Around him, 300 ships waited for orders, families who had saved for this journey, veterans who came out of retirement, young people who volunteered because they believed in doing what was right. None of them were soldiers, but all of them were ready to fight. "Station is hailing us again," his communications officer said. Rita Chen had been a civilian engineer before the Bright Hope disappeared. Her brother had been on that colony ship. "They want to negotiate." "Tell them we only negotiate the transfer method. Everything else is non-negotiable." Federation ships formed a defensive line between the human fleet and the station. Bradley counted 60 warships, proper military vessels with weapons that could tear through his converted cargo haulers like paper. The Federation commanders probably thought this would be over quickly. Show of force, humans back down, everyone goes home. They did not understand that there was no going home without the children. A priority message came through on a secure channel, military encryption that Bradley's ship should not have been able to receive. He opened it carefully. "Captain Bradley, this is Admiral Shenra of the Kaytheran Empire. I am sending you station layouts and guard rotations. You should also know there are 3 more facilities, coordinates attached. I speak only for myself and officers who share my beliefs, not my government, but we will not fire on you. Good luck." Bradley stared at the message. A Kaytheran admiral committing treason to help humans. He forwarded it to his command staff immediately. "What do you think?" Rita asked. "Could be a trap." "Could be, but look at these coordinates. They match energy signatures our scouts detected but could not explain." Bradley pulled up a star map. "If she is telling the truth, there are children at these other locations too, and adults, the colonists from the Bright Hope." Another ship arrived through slip space. Not human, not Federation military. A Drexian warrior clan vessel, massive and covered in weapon ports. A message came through immediately. "Human fleet, this is War Leader Cross of Clan Redstone. We heard what was done to your young. This brings dishonor to the galaxy. Our clan offers our weapons in your fight. There is no honor in harming children of any species." More ships dropped out of slip space. Ovorian medical vessels. A small fleet of independent traders who had worked with humans before. Even a few Kaytheran military ships breaking formation from the Federation defensive line. Not many, but enough to matter. The galaxy was choosing sides. On the research station, Renville received emergency orders from his government. Delay the humans. Keep them talking. Let the legal system work. The Federation needed time to sort out jurisdiction and contracts. Time to protect important people who might be embarrassed by investigations. He looked at Danny, the boy who had suffered 43 procedures. The child had started talking again, but only in whispers. He asked constantly if the humans outside were real or if this was another test to see how he would react. Officer Renville, Dira's voice came over his communicator. I found something. The facility computers have a deletion program running. They are destroying evidence. Renville ran to the command center. On the screens, he watched files disappearing in real time. Financial records, patient files, communications logs. Everything that could trace responsibility was being erased. Can you stop it? No, it is running from off-site. Even if we shut down the station systems, the deletion will continue remotely. Dira's hands moved across her console frantically. But I can copy some files before they vanish. Not everything, but enough to prove what happened here. Through the station windows, Renville saw Merchant Guild executive shuttles undocking. The people responsible were running, leaving the researchers and guards to face justice alone. He made a decision that would end his career. Renville opened a channel to the human fleet. Captain Bradley, this is Federation Officer Renville. I am inside the station with the rescued children. You should know that evidence is being destroyed and executives are fleeing. Also, your children are very scared and need their families. I am opening the main hangar bay. Come get your kids. The station director rushed into the command center. What are you doing? You have no authority to. I have every authority. Renville's calm voice had gone cold. These children were tortured under Federation watch. Our government is protecting the guilty. I will not be part of that failure any longer. He locked the command center door and activated the hangar bay doors. Red lights flashed throughout the station as emergency protocols kicked in. Federation ships tried to block the hangar, but the K-Theran vessels held their position, creating a gap in the defensive line. Human ships poured through. They did not come in firing. They came in like emergency responders, with medical teams and rescue equipment. Breaching pods attached to the station's hull at precise points, cutting through metal with practiced efficiency. Human soldiers entered the corridors in full environmental suits, weapons ready but not shooting unless forced. We are here for our children, they announced over and over. Stand aside or be moved. We will not harm you if you do not harm them. Station security looked at their weapons, then at the advancing humans, then at each other. Most put their weapons down. A few tried to resist and got moved aside with brutal efficiency. The humans were not playing. They were not posing. They were parents who had come to take their children home. Bradley's team reached the medical wing where the children were being treated. He removed his helmet, and the kids stared at him with confusion and hope and fear all mixed together. I'm Captain Bradley, he said softly. We've been looking for you. It's time to go home. A small girl stepped forward. Are you really real? They said nobody was coming. They said humans forgot about us. Bradley knelt down. We never forgot. We never stopped looking. Every single day for 2 years we searched, and now we found you. The girl started crying and ran to him. Then another child. Then more. Soon Bradley was surrounded by crying, laughing, terrified children who were beginning to believe they might actually be safe. But even as he held them, Bradley's mind was on that message from Admiral Shenra. 3 more facilities. Adult colonists. His daughter was still out there somewhere. This was not over. The extraction took 6 hours. Human teams moved through every corridor of Research Facility 7, checking every room, every storage area, every hidden space. They found 2 more children locked in isolation cells that had not appeared on any official maps. Both were in bad condition, but alive. Medical ships took the children immediately. Ovorian doctors worked alongside human physicians, learning to treat trauma they had never encountered before. Dr. Yenna watched human parents hold their children and weep with relief. She saw soldiers with weapons and armor kneel down to comfort scared kids with infinite patience. They are so gentle with them, she said to Dira. I thought Deathworlders would be harsh, aggressive, but look how carefully they move around the frightened ones. Maybe being from a dangerous world teaches you to protect the vulnerable, Dira replied, instead of exploiting them. Renville stood in the station command center, watching his career end in real time. Federation Command had issued arrest warrants for him. His own government declared him a traitor. The Catharan Empire disowned him publicly, while quietly telling him through encrypted channels that many citizens considered him a hero. He did not care about any of it. The children were safe. That was all that mattered. Captain Bradley returned to his ship with a data drive Dira had given him. It contained coordinates for 3 more locations where humans were being held. One was another research facility. One was a mining operation. The third was a corporate black site owned by Nexian Industries, a massive conglomerate with connections to dozens council members. What do we do? Rita asked. We got the kids from this station, but we lost the element of surprise. They know we are coming now. Bradley pulled up the data on the black site. According to Admiral Shenra's intelligence, it held over 150 adult colonists from the Bright Hope. They were being used for labor testing and endurance experiments. The adults had been told their children were dead. The children had been told their parents abandoned them, lies designed to break them. A message came through from the black site. Video only. Bradley's daughter appeared on the screen and his heart stopped. She looked older, thinner, but alive. 2 years had changed her from a young girl into a teenager with hard eyes. Daddy, she said, and her voice shook. They told me to record this. They said if your fleet comes closer, they will start killing people. They have over 150 of us here. Please, they're serious. They've already. The transmission cut off abruptly. Bradley's hands clenched into fists. Around him, the bridge crew waited in silence. They all saw the same thing he did. This was a hostage situation now. If they attacked, people would die. Send a message to Ambassador Nalen, Bradley said quietly. Tell her we need Earth's actual military. We need professionals. This is beyond what we can do. But Earth's military was already on its way. Patricia Nalen stood before the Federation Council and let her diplomatic mask finally shatter. For 5 years, she had smiled and negotiated and played by their rules. She had listened to species who considered humanity primitive lecture her about civilization and proper behavior. She had been patient. You call us Deathworlders, she said. Her voice echoed through the silent chamber. You use that word like it means savage, dangerous. You fear us because we come from a world that tried to kill us every day, where we had to fight just to survive. She walked to the center of the floor. But do you know what living on a death world actually teaches you? It teaches you that the strong protect the weak, that you survive together or die alone, that hurting children is not research, it is evil. The Heptari ambassador started to object. Patricia cut him off with a gesture. We told you we had 50 military vessels, she continued. We lied. We have 500. We have been building them since the day we discovered there were others out in the galaxy, because humans learned long ago that the universe is not safe. That power without accountability becomes tyranny. That someone needs to be strong enough to protect those who cannot protect themselves. She pulled out a data tablet and threw it onto the council floor. Those files contain evidence of 6 years of exploitation. 12 council members have direct financial connections to the research programs. 8 species have had their children stolen and used. Hundreds of victims, all covered up by laws and contracts and committees that do nothing. The chamber erupted in chaos. Some ambassadors shouted denials. Others demanded to see the evidence. A few sat in stunned silence. You have 1 day, Patricia said. 1 day to arrest everyone involved, to shut down every facility, to free every prisoner. After that, humanity stops asking permission. We will find them ourselves. and if you stand in our way, you will learn exactly why fear of the dark is universal. Earth's military fleet began arriving in Federation space. Not the small defense force everyone knew about, but hundreds of warships that had been kept in hidden shipyards. Dreadnoughts and carriers and ships built for a war humanity hoped would never come. Admiral Wei commanded the fleet from the EFS Valiant. She sent a message to every Federation military installation in 3 sectors. We are not here to conquer. We are not here for territory. We are here to bring our people home. Interfere, and we will consider it an act of war. At the Black Site, Nexion Industries executives made their final mistake. They issued demands. Immunity from prosecution, financial compensation, territory concessions from Earth, and they broadcast footage of adult prisoners being beaten to show they were serious about their threats. They thought they were negotiating from strength. They did not understand that they had just signed their own execution orders. Bradley's civilian fleet began moving toward the Black Site, but they were not alone anymore. Earth's military ships joined them, Catharan vessels that had broken from their fleet, Drexian warriors, Ovorian medical ships, independent traders and small defense forces from a dozen species who decided that some things were more important than politics. A coalition was forming, not official, not organized through proper channels, but real. All ships, Bradley transmitted. We are going to get our people. Some of you are here for humans. Some are here for your own species victims. Some are here because it is the right thing to do. Whatever your reason, thank you. Now let's end this. The fleet jumped to slip space together. When they emerged, the Black Site would learn what happened when the galaxy finally decided to stop looking away. Nexion Industries had built their Black Site inside a hollowed asteroid, hidden in a debris field where sensors would have trouble detecting life signs. The facility was massive, with processing centers, labor zones, and executive quarters for the overseers who managed the operation. Over 150 human colonists worked there under threat of violence, building components for weapons they would never use and running tests on equipment designed to break them. The fleet dropped out of slip space in formation around the asteroid. 300 civilian ships, 200 military vessels, support craft from a dozen species, the largest unauthorized military action in Federation history. Bradley stood on his bridge, looking at the facility that held his daughter. Around him, his crew worked in focused silence. Rita monitored communications. Paul managed tactical displays. Every person on every ship knew what was at stake. A transmission came from the Black Site. You have 10 minutes to withdraw, or we start executing prisoners. We will broadcast it live so you can watch them die knowing you caused it. Bradley's jaw tightened. Admiral Wei, tell me you have a plan. The human military commander's face appeared on screen. Captain, our Special Forces teams have been studying the facility layout for the past hour. We know where the prisoners are held. We know where the executives are hiding. And we know exactly how to get everyone out. How long will it take? 3 minutes once we breach. But we need them to drop their containment fields first. Right now, they have those fields protecting their executive section and blocking sensors from the prisoner areas. We need them to feel safe enough to lower them. Bradley understood. You need a distraction. We need them to think they have one. The next part required more acting than Bradley thought himself capable of. He opened a channel to the Black Site executives. You want to negotiate? Fine. Tell me your terms. For the next 8 minutes, Bradley pretended to be a desperate father willing to give up anything for his child. He agreed to immunity. He agreed to payment. He agreed to territorial concessions. He let them believe they had broken him. And while he talked, human special forces teams launched in stealth pods that looked like debris. They drifted with the asteroid field, matching speed and trajectory with the rocks around them. 60 soldiers trained for exactly this kind of operation. Silent, patient, lethal. "We want Ambassador Nolan to formally guarantee these terms," the Nexian executive said. His name was Vorn and he sounded smug. "In front of the Federation Council." "I will arrange it," Bradley lied. The containment fields dropped as Nexian executives prepared to receive their first payment transfer. Just as Admiral Way predicted, they felt safe. They thought they had won. The breach teams hit 6 entry points simultaneously. They cut through the asteroid surface using equipment designed for mining operations but modified for combat. Humans had taken tools meant for building and turned them into weapons. It was very human. Inside the facility, alarms started screaming, but by then it was too late. Human soldiers moved through corridors with practiced efficiency. They shot out security cameras. They disabled guard stations. They opened prison cells and told terrified colonists that rescue was here. Bradley's daughter was in a work zone when the breach happened. She heard the alarms and prepared for the worst. Instead, she saw human soldiers in combat armor clearing the area. One soldier stopped in front of her. "Are you Bradley's daughter?" She nodded, unable to speak. The soldier smiled behind his helmet visor. "Your dad is outside. He has been looking for you for 2 years. Never stopped. Never gave up. Come on, let's get you to him." Throughout the facility, similar scenes played out. Colonists who had been told they were forgotten, that no one was coming, that they would die here, suddenly finding themselves being carried out by soldiers who knew their names, who had studied their files, who had come specifically to save them. Some Nexian security forces fought back. They died quickly. Some surrendered immediately. They were restrained and moved to holding areas. The executives tried to flee through emergency tunnels. Human soldiers had blocked every exit. They were trapped in their own facility. Vorn, the executive who had negotiated so confidently, found himself facing Bradley in person. The captain had boarded the facility personally, refusing to wait on his ship. "You cannot do this," Vorn said. "We have rights, we have contracts, the Federation will protect us." Bradley looked at him with absolute contempt. "You tortured children, you enslaved innocent people, you threatened to kill them on broadcast, you have no rights anymore. I demand to speak to a lawyer, I demand Federation protection, I demand." Bradley turned and walked away. He had no time for this. His daughter was waiting. They found each other in a corridor full of rescued colonists. She saw him and stopped walking. For a moment, they just stared at each other. 2 years of separation. 2 years of fear and pain and hope that slowly died. Then she ran to him and he caught her and they both collapsed to the floor crying. Around them, other families were reuniting. Parents finding children they thought were lost. Husbands and wives discovering spouses they had mourned. Friends embracing friends. Dr. Yenna watched from a medical transport and cried too. Her species valued compassion, but she had never seen anything like this. The raw emotion of humans who had found their loved ones against impossible odds. "They never stopped believing," she said to Dira. 2 years of searching, 2 years of hopping, they never gave up. Dira nodded. "That is what makes them dangerous, not their weapons or their world, but their absolute refusal to abandon each other." Across 3 sectors, Earth's military conducted similar operations simultaneously. The other research facilities were breached and cleared. The mining operation was shut down. Every Nexian asset within reach was seized or destroyed, and every prisoner, human and alien alike, was freed. The executives who tried to escape found that every port had been warned. Every friendly government had been contacted. Earth had shared the evidence of what these people had done. Most surrendered immediately rather than face human justice. Vorn and the other Black Site leaders were brought before an emergency tribunal. No Federation Council, no lengthy legal process, just humans and the species whose children had been stolen, watching the accused face their crimes. The sentences were harsh. Not death, humans did not execute prisoners, but life imprisonment in isolation, where they would have a long time to think about what they had done. Bradley held his daughter on the ship back to human space. She slept against his shoulder, exhausted and traumatized but safe. Around them, other colonists rested for the first time in 2 years without fear. "What happens now?" she asked quietly. "Now we go home," Bradley said, "and we make sure this never happens to anyone again." The Federation Council chamber had never been so quiet. 12 empty seats marked where council members had resigned in disgrace. Another 8 members faced criminal charges and were suspended pending investigation. The remaining ambassadors sat in stunned silence as evidence was presented of systematic exploitation spanning 6 years. Patricia Nolan did not need to raise her voice. The proof spoke for itself. Financial records, medical files, communications between executives and government officials, video evidence from multiple facilities. Everything had been recovered and was now being broadcast throughout the galaxy. 473 victims, Patricia said. Humans, yes, but also Ovorians, Catharans, small species without military protection, children and adults taken from the vulnerable places in your civilization and used like laboratory equipment. She looked around the chamber. And most of you did nothing. You knew or you suspected or you deliberately did not look, because it was profitable, because it was convenient, because the victims did not matter to you. The new council speaker, a Drexian who had replaced the previous corrupt official, spoke carefully. "Ambassador Nolan, the council acknowledges these crimes. We are implementing reforms. New protection laws are being written. Enforcement agencies are being created. What more do you want from us?" Patricia's expression softened slightly. "I want you to understand what you did wrong. Not just the criminals who ran these facilities. All of you. You created a system where the powerful could prey on the weak and call it legal, where contracts mattered more than lives, where civilization was measured by technology instead of compassion." She paused. "Humanity will remain in the Federation. We will trade with you. We will cooperate on mutual goals, but we will never again ask your permission to protect the defenseless. That is our line. Cross it and you will face us." Renville watched from the gallery. He no longer held any official position. The Catharan Empire had stripped him of rank and citizenship, but they had not arrested him. Public opinion in his home system had split sharply, with many citizens considering him a hero who stood for true honor. Admiral Shenra sat next to him. She had faced court-martial for her actions, but was acquitted when 60% of her fleet officers testified they would have done the same thing. The Catharan military had been forced to admit that following illegal orders was not required. "What will you do now?" she asked Renville. "Ambassador Nolan has offered me a position," he said, "leading a joint task force to investigate exploitation across the galaxy, making sure this never happens again. They trust you to lead this. They trust that I failed once and will not fail again." Renville looked at the council floor. "I followed procedures while children suffered. I will not make that mistake twice." On Earth, the rescued colonists were beginning their long recovery. The settlement they established became known as Second Chance, a community built by people who had survived the unthinkable and come home. Bradley's daughter attended therapy 3 times a week. She had nightmares. She struggled with crowds. Loud noises made her panic. But slowly, with help and time and the support of people who understood, she began to heal. Danny, the boy who had suffered 43 procedures, was adopted by Paul's family. The soldier who had rescued him stayed in contact and eventually asked if Danny wanted to live with his family. The boy said yes. He still had hard days, but he was learning to smile again, learning to trust, learning to be a child instead of a test subject. Dr. Yenna opened a clinic on Second Chance dedicated to treating trauma survivors. She had trained in Ovorian medicine, but she studied human psychology and learned their approaches to healing. Her clinic treated both human and alien survivors, creating new methods by combining different species' knowledge. 6 months after the rescue, Renville's task force had freed 47 more children from various facilities across the galaxy. Not all human. The Merchant Guild and Nexian Industries had been using 8 different species over the years. Every child found was reunited with their families or placed with loving homes that understood their needs. The galaxy was changing, slowly, reluctantly, but changing. Species that had never considered the ethics of their research programs began implementing protections. Governments that had looked the other way started investigating their own corporations. The term Deathworlder began to mean something different, not savage or dangerous but protective, strong enough to defend those who could not defend themselves. Bradley visited the memorial garden in Second Chance every morning. Names of colonists who had not survived were carved in stone. 43 names. 43 people who had died in those facilities before rescue came. He placed flowers and stood in silence, remembering them. His daughter found him there one morning. She stood next to him quietly, reading the names. "Do you think about what we could have done differently?" she asked. "Every day," Bradley admitted. "But we did what we could with what we knew. We never stopped searching. We never gave up. That has to count for something." "The Ovorian kids we saved last month," she said. "Their parents were crying and thanking everyone. It reminded me of when you found me." Bradley looked at her. "You thinking about joining the task force when you are older?" She nodded. "Someone has to make sure this keeps not happening. Why not me? I know what it feels like to be forgotten. I can make sure no one else feels that way." He hugged her. "You will make a difference, I know it." In the Federation Council, new laws were passed with unprecedented speed. Any exploitation of children of any species became a Federation-level crime with severe penalties. Protection agencies were established with real authority and funding, and human representatives sat on every enforcement board, making sure the rules were followed. The galaxy had learned a hard lesson. Humanity's greatest weapon was not their military strength or their Deathworld origins. It was their absolute refusal to abandon each other or anyone they chose to protect. They were not the strongest species, not the smartest, not the most advanced. But they were the ones who showed up when everyone else looked away. They were the ones who remembered that civilization was measured by how you treated the weakest, not the strongest. They were the ones who proved that coming from a dangerous world did not make you dangerous. It made you understand the importance of safety. The young girl who Renville had found shaking in her cell now attended school with human and alien children. She still had hard days, but she laughed with her friends. She played games. She was learning what it meant to just be a kid. And every time she smiled, it proved that the galaxy could change, that good could win, that hope mattered. That was humanity's real gift to the stars.